What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to Soulsborne Academy. Sit your booty down and don't be weary of the hunters that are around you. They are just here for your protection. But welcome back to today's episode, and we're going to be diving into two main topics. I was about to do this, but that would be four. So the two topics that we're going to be discussing today are panic rolling and dodging and build progression. Now, panic rolling and dodging is something I'm going to spend a little bit more time with because I thought that, okay, I need to focus more on build progression because that's going to be a really big topic. No, it's probably a little bit easier than you guys are making it seem to be. So we're going to go over build progression first, considering the fact that that's the one that is going to take me the least amount of time to talk about. Surprisingly enough, I thought I was going to talk about this one for longer. So the full question, well, not necessarily a question, but the full statement that Sir Chem the Paladin, love that username, stated was build progression. Sometimes it's difficult for me to make a build that I want to use with the weapons I like. I normally go for quality build, but Elden Ring made me change it up and go quality magic. So there are numbers and endless amounts of builds that you can make in Elden Ring or in any Souls game. Actually, besides Sekiro and Bloodborne, well, Bloodborne, technically you can do different types of builds, but it's a little more limiting. With Dark Souls, you can really create any kind of build you want to make. You can make the Giant Dad, you can make a magic build, you can make a quality build, you can make a very, very spiky build. You can do Bone Wheel Skelly Guy, you can do the Crestfallen Warrior, you can do Artorias. So the main reason why that this is not a very, as I thought, in-depth topic to go into is because build progression depends all on your skill level at the time that you are playing a Souls game. So if your skill level, like in the person's question that they have here, question statement thing that they have here, if your progression level and if your skill level lies solely with magic, let's say, then you're going to create more of a magic build or a sorcery build. If you are a pyro kind of person, your build is going to be significantly more fire build. If you are just figuring out souls, and you're just going in there and you're throwing into there with the eagle's dust of the wings, when, you know, whenever that bird flies you into Firelink Shrine, you are just starting out and you are not going to know what your skill level is until you progress and until you practice. So when it comes to your build progression and how you want to go about your journey with Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, or even Bloodborne to an extent, you have the capability to see, okay, let me look up online, let me see what kind of builds there are first, because there are a lot of them, like I said. For me personally, whenever it comes to builds, I love a good strength build. I think they're absolutely amazing. I love a good magic build too. The first time I ever did magic was in Elden Ring, so I was like, oh, let me try to do a sorcery build, and it was one of the best things I ever ended up doing. In Elden Ring, that is one of the best builds to do. I would highly recommend either doing a quality build or a magic build when you're just getting into Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is way easier than any of the other Dark Souls games. So whenever you go into that game in particular, I ended up going for straight sorcery. So, I mean, you know, you can't really, there's a lot of mixing and doing and all that kind of thing to get to like the really nitpicky parts of how you want to do your build. But the baseline of it is that when you're doing different builds in whether it be any of the Dark Souls games or Elden Ring or like slight bits of Bloodborne, you really want to calculate in what your skill level is and then go from there. Because let's say, for example, you're incredibly OP in all aspects. You've done Souls games for years. You'll already know where your skill level lies and what kind of build you want to create, because there's no limit to the types of possibilities of builds that are out there. And again, I will say, if you are just starting out in Souls games, mess around with the game a little bit, go about experimenting with different types of weapons and tools and spears and all that kind of stuff. I was never personally a spear person, by the way. I was just, you know, more of a sword and shield type gal whenever I was in a Souls game, because I was primarily a strength build. Because when you're first starting out, you don't know what skill level you are exactly. So experiment with everything you got and go from there. That's the best advice I can give you possibly on build progression, because there's so much I could dive into it, but it would be more nitpicky type stuff that I want to do, like maybe an advanced class on and discuss that later. Because right now I'm an intermediate level when it comes to Souls games, even though I may, know a good bit about the games themselves and how to progress and teach you guys how to do well in them. It doesn't mean that I'm, incredibly OP myself. There are some players out there there are players who are always going to be better than me. There are players that are always going to be better than you. Do what is comfortable for your skill level and what is comfortable for your own build progression. Now, what I can do is do more of an in-depth build progression whenever I start Demon Souls. That way you guys see how you go from point start to the end of the game, basically, of what a good kind of build progression looks like. So if you guys want me to do that, I can. You just gotta let me know down in the comments below. All right, next up for our final topic that we're going to be diving into is panic rolling and dodging. This is something that I did so much of. She said panic rolling and dodging is my biggest weakness until I calm down and focus. Same. The best advice that I can give for panic rolling and dodging is to look at your surroundings. Calm yourself down first. Just go little bit of unagi, a little bit of a breathe, a little bit of a sip of the coffee, a little bit of just, I remember I'm in Dark Souls and I'm going to die. Just remember to catch your bearings and understand you don't have to beat the boss all in one go. I know it's an obvious thing to say, but whenever you're going into a boss battle, you feel like, oh God, I gotta rush it. I gotta do the thing and I gotta hurry up and do it. No, stop. First of all, calm down. I know you can't pause the game, but just remember your feet and where you are. Secondly, the main thing that I would recommend is die a few times. Go and circle yourself, and I've mentioned this also a bajillion times, circle yourself around the boss to see what its movements are. Do like a little bait and move back kind of thing, because when you go and you kind of like bait it in to do an attack, you're getting to see what its attack set actually is whenever you move back. So when you're still for a little bit, that's going to give kind of the AI of the enemy to, a cue to do different types of movements and everything, because you'd be surprised how long some of these enemies will just stand still for if you're further enough back. So when you're dodging and you're rolling and you're doing all these different kinds of things, keep in mind that if you see what the kind of like the attack set of the enemy is, you'll be able to see where you can dodge into and then take a swing, or where you can roll away from and then you can take a swing. You know what I mean? When I was first starting in Souls games, the amount of panic rolling and dodging I would do, it was ridiculous. So many of you who saw me in my attempts of playing Dark Souls 1, the gargoyle, oh boy. But that's the thing too, it's all about practice. It's all about getting in that experience. So you are fighting this boss probably 20, 50, 100 times, and then you'll finally get down kind of a, what's the word for it? Kind of a muscle memory, if you will, of where you're supposed to dodge or when you're supposed to roll or all those kinds of things. Because after a while, you get this kind of muscle memory with certain bosses and you just remember how to do it. So you'll be doing a boss so many times that you're just like, oh, I dodge here, and then it'll finally click. You'll play by the game's rules and you'll just get it. Now, for the person who asked this question, I don't know where your skill level is at necessarily, but I would just highly recommend do kind of like the bait and stand back a little bit. So you get to see where their attack move is. So you get to see like where you dodge, where you roll, where you can like afford to get hit, if that makes sense. Because it's very easy to panic roll and dodge and use up all of your momentum and everything. It's very easy to do that because you get so like caught up in the moment of what the game is and the boss battle and all that kind of stuff, and you want to be able to just like swipe it until it's dead. It's kind of like a spider, you just squish it until it's gone. At a certain point, it won't be about panic rolling or dodging anymore. It'll just fall into place. One other thing that I can solidly recommend is understand the boss, understand their moveset, understand their weaknesses, understand kind of the lore and history of the boss as well is a good thing to know, because when you understand the boss, it's not about being afraid, but you'll be less intimidated by what the boss actually is. So I hope these things helped you guys. I hope for anyone else who had these kinds of questions that these were answered for you. The next Soulsborne Academy video that I'm going to try to get up try being the keyword, is going to be on Sunday, and hopefully it's going to be of the first boss in the Thumerian chamber, because I really want to be able to show you guys that boss in depth. I just have to beat it myself. So if I can get it up this Sunday, I will, but if I can't, then it'll be pushed over to next week. But if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. We're getting closer and closer to a partner, and it's all because of you guys, and I'm really, really excited. But may you find your worth in the waking world, dear hunters. Stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. See you guys.